So Paul Ryan says he's not going to vote for Donald Trump. I want to play. I got to play it one more time. Can we play? Can we just watch this one more time? Milken Institute conference. He's hanging with the cool kids, and he's got to say, I'm not going to vote for him. No way. I couldn't possibly vote for Donald Trump.
Character is too important to me. And it's a job that requires the kind of character that he just doesn't have. Having said that, I really disagree with Biden on policy. I wrote in a Republican the last time. I'm going to write in a Republican this time.
You're going to write in
a
Republican?
I don't know who yet.
Okay, so Paul Ryan wants to vote for himself for president. Great. Well, he thinks he's all cool and mighty and whatever, big, taller than he is out there at the Milken Institute conference. Except, I got a newsflash for him. The cool kids are shifting sides because it seems that policy actually does matter. So while he's out there talking his book and, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, I hate Trump. So he thinks he's, friendly with Yahoo Finance and maybe he'll get on MSNBC, even though he works for Fox. By the way, that should tell you something. What actually is going down is something very different at this moment in time. And it's fascinating to watch. It's fascinating to see. I want to share with you a tweet that Bill Ackman, so Bill Ackman's big deal, billionaire hedge fund guy. And he kind of launched these attacks against the likes of Harvard and MIT and UPenn. UPenn lost its president as a result of a lot of what Ackman did. Harvard's Claudine Gay, she's still there as a professor, but she had to step down from her position. And then Cornell just the other day, although she says it's not related. Listen, he definitely was a disturber on Twitter. And he's continuing to be. And this is somebody who was pretty liberal, like pretty liberal. All right. And now all of a sudden, this stuck out at me. I want to read it to you. So look at what Trump posted on Truth Social. Crooked Joe Biden, whether he knows it or not, just said he will withhold weapons from Israel as they fight to eradicate Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Hamas murdered thousands of innocent civilians, including babies, and are still holding Americans hostage if hostages are still yet alive. Yet Crooked Joe is taking the side of the terrorists. So he's going on about how outrageous this is, that Joe is deserting our allies. And interestingly, Bill Ackman, I'm going to say he's one of the cool kids, writes, at Real Donald Trump speaks the truth. Interesting. And he's not the only one. Let's take a look at another billionaire who, you might have thought was helping out the Dems. Stanley Druckenmiller. This guy's a big deal. Everybody respects him, trusts him on Wall Street. He went on CNBC the other day. He gave Bidenomics, and thus Joe, a big fat F. Watch it.
It's another, I think, issue of being, things are going well, and then we totally overspent in terms of fiscally as well in Bidenomics.
Bidenomics, if I was a professor, I'd give them an F. Basically, they misdiagnosed COVID and thought we were going into a depression. The Fed did too. I worried about it too in early days. The Fed eventually pivoted, better late than never. Treasury is still acting like we're in a depression. It's interesting because I've studied the Great Depression, and you had a private sector crippled with debt with basically no new ideas. So interventionist policies were called for and were effective. The private sector could not be more different today than it was in the Great Depression. Their balance sheets are fine, they're healthy, and have you ever seen more innovative ideas that the private sector could take advantage of now? You've got blockchain, you've got AI, you've got the whole thing. All government needed to do was get out of their way and let them innovate. Instead, they've spent and spent and spent. And my new fear now is that spending and the resulting interest rates on the debt that's been created are going to crowd out some of the innovation that otherwise would have taken place. We've got a 7% budget deficit at full employment. It's unheard of. And this is when you've got grid spending, you have, you've got defense spending, you have data center spending,
For AI.
and then, of course, you have green.
Yeah.
So this spending is going to take place. You're going to build a capital stock. How do you build a capital stock when government is intruding with regulations and all this spending? And it's just sad, because I think we're looking at one of the most exciting periods in terms of potential productivity enhancing investments ever. And why we're spending like we're still in the Great Depression is beyond.
Listen, I mean, he is not positive on Biden or Bidenomics. And for that matter, neither is another cool kid. Again, Paul Ryan, are you listening? The tide is shifting, okay? Shifting big time. The guy who runs the biggest bank in America, Jamie Dimon, can we get him as Treasury Secretary next time around? Thank you very much. He had to come out at Davos this winter and say, hey, you all, like he did this is great. He did this at Davos on CNBC's set. I mean, he's talking to Joe, and Joe's actually pretty conservative, so that's fine. But I can just see the rest of them bristling at this and everybody who's standing around him. He says this at Davos. Hello, people, like, get over yourselves. This is half the country, for goodness sakes. Watch.
We've got this great hand, but when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. Now, if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. He grew the economy quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues. And that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting
It's hard to hate
Trump?
75 million of your fellow Americans. And
I agree.
It's done quite well.
And, you know, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really, like, can we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect, and I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
Yeah.
Well, that prediction was certainly correct. I mean, that was just a few months ago. Yeah, all that negative talk about half the country, that's going to backfire Joe Biden, and it's backfiring spectacularly. You know what? Half the country are not bad people. You are not a bad person because you thought that Donald Trump's policies actually worked. I mean, hey, you're filling your gas tank. You're shopping at the grocery store. You know what worked and what didn't. And then you think about, in addition to just what's going on internationally, what's going on economically, what's going on at the border, you think about what's going on culturally.